go live. 3, 2, 1, and at the speed of our internet connection, we will be live.
Okay, call the meeting at 9:05. Adoption of the agenda, any changes, Bert?
I don't have anything to add at this point, no.
Anything from the board? No? Okay, can I get a motion on the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented, accept the agenda as presented.
Any questions?
And I'll second it.
We don't need.
You don't need, okay.
No questions on it? I'll call the question, all in favor? Okay, next is adoption of the minutes. Anybody see any errors?
Motion to approve as presented.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we don't need a second.
Oh, sorry, I thought you had to on that one.
Okay, call the question, all in favor?
We're 2 for 2.
Next is our delegation.
All right. It gives me,
You wanna go ahead with that, Bert?
sure, sorry, Mr. Chair, I jumped the gun there a little bit. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Hubert and Josh Lau. They are the president and I always forget Josh's title, business analyst for Josh for TrustBix. TrustBix has recently made a acquisition of AFSI, Alberta Food Security Inc., and we've had an opportunity to have a couple conversations with them in the last couple of weeks. This technology and about the things of how to formulate I'm going to say partnership / collaboration / pilot that may be possible for Woodlands County. So with that, I'll give it back to Chairman Bruce to maybe do some quick introductions.
Yes.
And then we'll let you guys start and you can lead us through on your presentation. And thank you for being here this morning.
Well, we'll start over with Patricia.
Sure. Hi there, Patricia McNeil. I'm a member at large with Woodlands County OPEP.
And you know me.
Yep. Hi, guys. We met a couple of years ago at EDA. Nice to see you again, Alan Dean.
And I'm Shelley Hiddle, member at large with the Economic Development Committee for Woodlands County.
And of course, a little bit off camera, but you guys know me, Bert Roach, Economic Development Officer, Woodlands County. Great to see you and thanks for being here.
Yeah, so we're short 3 board members. So, go ahead, Herbert.
No. I just want to say thank you. Yeah.
So, take it away, Herbert.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce and everyone in the committee, and thank you for the invitation. Bert, the back of your head still looks great, so I just wanted to let you know that. Well combed and all. Did our slide get circulated into your minutes or into your package? Have
Yes.
you had a chance to look at it?
So I do apologize. We're in the process of, I think I just hit the wrong button, so I didn't publish the slideshow publicly, but everyone does have a paper copy. So please feel free to walk us through. And if you do have and want to share a screen, we can do that as well.
Sure, I'll share the screen if it's okay, and I'll just quickly walk through the slide. I won't bore you too much with the details because I rather have it as an interactive discussion than anything else. It's great to see all of you. Unfortunately, the camera's a little bit far, so I can't quite see everybody's face. So, but let me know if there is, if you have any questions and so forth. The acquisition of Alberta Food Security has been a very exciting one for us because it takes our business to another level. Can you all see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, yeah, perfect. Unfortunately, I cannot see your face now. It just says, it's just black right now. So if you have any questions, please voice up because I will not be able to see any hand gestures. Just because we're publicly traded, I have to have a confidentiality, not, forward-looking information, so on and so forth, just because I don't feel like going to jail. But there's nothing that we're going to be talking about that's really considered confidential or forward-looking. So I don't think there's going to be any issues.
Excuse me.
So what is Alberta Food Security? It is a company that we have signed agreement to buy in full. So it is going to become a wholly owned subsidiary of Trustbex Inc. We're just waiting for the final approval from the stock exchange, which is really just a rubber stamp, but they're so far behind in their work right now. It's taking a little longer to get that. So we've been told not to worry about it, just keep moving forward. So we are. And this technology, what it really addresses are a number of things. Number one is food insecurity. So access to nutritious, really priced food products for Canadians. Vertical farming, how to scale it in a way that can go into any sort of buildings. I'll go into that in a bit. Distressed real estate market. So we know in a lot of the urban centers, there are many office buildings that are empty at this point because no one's going back to it after COVID. And in some of the rural areas, because of COVID and the economic situations, there are probably a lot of empty buildings as well that needs to be addressed. And then finally, is looking at if for those who want to maybe start a new business or they just want to be employed. They're looking for a job and they're looking for opportunities that pay, a good wage and in great working conditions that is meaningful to them. So we're addressing all four of those areas. So just to touch on, and I won't go too deep into this, but I think we've all seen in the news that there is this whole food security crisis, and then there's this office vacancy crisis. And I just find that it's fascinating to find out that in North America, so in Canada and US combined, there's about $2.9 trillion of mortgages that could default in the next 24 months if they're not renegotiated. So that really shows the size of the problem. And when it comes to food, we see it every day that the grocery stores are making tons of money, but there's a lot of families that doesn't get to eat, so they just can't afford food, so their quality of life continues to go down. So what we have is a indoor farming solution, and on the right here, can you see my mouse? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Everyone, hello, still there? Okay.
Yeah.
Did I put you to sleep already?
They're riveted so far.
So on the right side here is what the farm units look like before they get populated. So if you can see my mouse okay, the white part here are the bins, and then the little pods here are where the vegetables would grow. The vertical white bars here are actually lights that are that replace big bulbs that vertical use. And this the strip here we're talking about with the LED is specifically catered to the spectrums of light that vegetables and fruit need to grow. So we're not trying to simulate the whole spectrum of sunlight, but we're just picking the light waves that the plants and the vegetables and fruit need. And then on top is all the sensors, right? So the water sensors, the growth sensors, the lighting sensors. Like there's a whole bunch of sensors up here. And then so what it is that there's 8 light bars, and then it allows the products to grow inside. And this is one growth module. So we will have many different growth modules, and each growth module could be growing different fruit and vegetables. The way we power everything is not where we have to plug in the wall, but it's actually powered over network cables. So because it's designed to be in office buildings, we had to make sure it was very light. We had to make sure that it is easy to configure and put together, and that it did not require a bunch of electrical work or water piping work. The design is so light that any one of you could probably, with the one hand, hold any parts of it, because they're all printed with the electronics built in. So they're not heavy here. The nice thing about this is because it's all computerized, all we have to tell our system is this growth unit is growing whatever the vegetable or fruit is, so let's say strawberries, then it will configure the amount of light, the spectrums of light, amount of water, amount of nutrition it needs to optimize growing, say, strawberries or cucumbers or cilantro or whatever it is that we say. So the idea there is there's not a lot of human intervention that is necessary to configure and make sure it's right, so that the chance of error is greatly reduced. Everything is manufactured locally. Most of our electrical parts are still coming whenever possible from the US, but we do get some from Asia right now just because of supply chain. And it's easily installed. Once the equipment arrives, it could be up and running in less than a month. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions along the way. Yeah. So if we compare our technology versus traditional indoor farming technology, the cost per square foot roughly runs between $150 to $250 per square foot to get it all in, running, installed and running. And the price range really is based on the configurations, the size of the building, what we have to do for modifications in terms of the building and its footprint. Most of the ones that we've been talking to Bert about will sit closer to $150 to $175 per square foot. If we compare our cost to get set up with the traditional farming indoor farms, they are going to be anywhere between 25 to 50% higher than our cost. And in fact, most of them I see is over 100% higher, but I didn't want to overstate just so that everybody, no one would challenge us on our numbers. Like we said, our system can go into industrial space as well as commercial office space. And instead of just growing leafy greens, we could we can grow over 150 fruit and vegetables. And in terms of weight requirements, this is very critical, especially in an office tower, is that building code states that when you're moving into an office, your equipment and everything combined cannot exceed 60 pounds per square foot. And our equipment with the fruit and vegetables fully loaded is less than 30 pounds per square foot. Is there a question?
Yeah,
No.
Hubert, I do. It's Alan here. I'm looking at the cost difference between the traditional indoor farms and the agri indoor farms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they're significant, in some cases, power is 15 to 1, et cetera, yet
Yeah.
the average cost only differs by 50 cents. Why is
I
that
love that
ratio
question.
so different?
Okay, you've had coffee already because you picked up on that. And usually when I get to that part of the slide, the way I kind of describe it is that when we go and research other farms and what they do is the numbers that I get is an average number. So it's also in US dollars. So I think it's like $3 and I can't remember exactly, but we convert into Canadian dollars at $4.50. Our farm, but it didn't give us a range. So to compare apples to apples, we had to just put a number on our side. Our produce is actually anywhere from less than $1 per pound up to just under $4 per pound, depending on what we're growing. So it has a whole range, but because on the traditional indoor farms, we don't have that range of numbers, we could not put in the slide legitimately and have it compare apples to apples. So we said, look, we'll go with our highest number, which is just under $4. But we've got a lot of fruit and vegetables that is under $2, or and then we got some even under $1 in terms of its production.
So have you guys done any direct comparison, say lettuce to lettuce? If those guys can
Well, I
only
don't have that. Unfortunately, I don't have it. But what I do know is that a lot of these farms, the indoor farms, especially in the US, is actually going bankrupt right now because their capital cost was so high and their operational cost is extremely high because of electricity. And so with inflation, interest rates going up, and then their electricity costs going up, they cannot maintain themselves. So they're actually shutting their doors down. So I don't have the exact comparison, unfortunately. If I did, I would have we would have laid out the slide differently. in terms of the cost there.
Okay,
But
thank you.
that's a great question, Alan. I just don't have that data, so I don't want to misrepresent what the comparison. So just to kind of to wrap that up is that the data that we got from different banks as well as research institutes, they gave an average number, which means that there's higher and lower. And then we also know that our numbers are higher and lower. If we just took our average, it would be under $3. But we want to, what we're trying to do is make it, we don't want to overstate, so we want to under-promise, over-deliver at the end of the day. So that's why we kind of set up the slides this way. So even if we look at the square footage, like the build cost, at the end of the day, their build cost is going to be way over 50% more than us. But we're just trying to understate it just so that it manages everyone's expectations.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then in terms of labor and skills and so forth, is that in our AgriPlay system is that it's a novice can do this because a lot of it is driven by computer and data. So as long as someone who's willing to follow the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, they can work in the facility. Any other questions on this slide? Because there's a lot of information
Herbert,
on this slide. Yes.
maybe you could explain your project that you have in the Calgary Tower.
Sure, absolutely. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm just going to stop the share here for a second. And then I'm going to share this out. So these are pictures that I have from the older configurations when it was still vertical towers. So as you can tell here, I'll just make them a little bigger so it's easier to see. So what these are is the reason why you see it all in kind of weird lights is because of the light spectrum. So we didn't filter the picture. So these are the different light spectrums as we're growing. This is the facility in the Calgary Tower. So it's just above Ruth Chris Restaurant.
Looks like a nightclub.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a nightclub. Yeah. And this is the computer room. So everything is driven by switches, cables, and all of these green cables will become power sources to the units. So again, we don't have to pull a whole bunch of extra power and so forth. And all of these switches are custom built with servers built into it. So it has one function. So it's very difficult to be compromised because it's it's hard coded in, and the functions are really tightly programmed in and managed. So it looks very clean. Could be in a separate room. And the installation is just like, I just took a lot of pictures here just so that, we can look at it. This is the kind of like the workers' room, if you will, the server room. And then this part here, this kind of empty space is used as the biosecurity room. So basically this is where if this was in full production, then everyone has to change, put the gowns on, wrap the shoes properly with the all the PPE gear. There's some more here. Just kind of like rows. It could be just rows and rows of these things, right? This is actually the inventor of the technology. And stock A and stock B one is water, the other is the plant food, and it's just got a mixture. And then these are the pumps, and then so these tubes, each one goes to each growth unit. So that way it can be controlled digitally how much food and water it goes to each unit depending on what we're doing. Okay, so just another picture of that. I was just looking at, but I'm gonna see if I can play this video here. Oh, we can. So these are the new units being manufactured. So these are new units being manufactured. Remember I said they're bins? So we just got this video, and so here we go. The bin just got created, right? So this is done right in Calgary. So we're really trying to start with an data-based before we take it to the rest of the plant. Does that give you a little more kind of visual, just so that it's not like trying to get you to think about it, but we just want to give you an opportunity to see it actually in action.
And the water's recycled.
Sure.
Well, everything's recycled. Yeah, water's recycled. The only water loss that we have is actually through evaporation, or is absorbed by the plant. So it uses very little water. And one of the things that we have some data on is that if you take the same office space and you fill it with people with computers, and they're working 8-hour days on normal business hours, is that the human beings will consume more power and water than our units growing plant, fruit and vegetable. So why do we consume more water? Because we go to the washroom, we cook, we wash our hands, we do dishes, we make coffee. So just the consumption as human beings for the water is going to be more than the water plants, because everything is recycled. We don't even have to have special drains because they're all recycled, reused, and so that's why we look at it. The environmental footprint is extremely good because we're using less power, less water, and the whole concept is to grow local and eat local. So we're trying to eliminate the need for the long haul trucks, especially in the winter if they have to come up from, say, California, and that the trucking cost and the carbon footprint at least behind it is quite huge. So we're and these are some of these are actually from the Calgary facility. These pictures, okay. And the idea there is that we've been talking to different groups. We want to start with a small facility, about 3,000 square feet, one in the urban area, one in the rural areas. And the idea there is that there shouldn't be any real major changes to the building, because if is to normal building codes, everything should work. So the HVAC normal building code says if you got human beings in there, it needs 4 air exchanges an hour. We just want to confirm it does. We're happy. In terms of electrical use, because it's so little, as long as the power is steady and it's clean, it's not like dirty power, and we're all set. And water, as long as there's a washroom or a kitchen that we can pull water from, we're all good. In terms of operators, what we're hoping to do is actually create situations in the beginning is that we can employ them, or whoever we're partnering with as the future operators can employ them. So what we're doing is we're focusing on job creation first and foremost. And anything that we are like in terms of our budget and pro forma, we're basing it on $20 to $25 an hour for the people working in there. So we don't want them to be working at minimum wage. And there's opportunities for bonuses and profit sharing and different things like that, so that it keeps everybody motivated, and so that the more successful the indoor farm is, the more successful everybody who works in it will be. And we're also talking to different financiers, investors, even insurance companies, because in talking with some of the major banks and insurance groups such as AFSC, they're trying to figure out how to insure and finance operation like this, because it's so different. Your traditional indoor farm, because it's all industrial, it fits in a box for how they want to finance it. But because we can put in office buildings, it changes how they want to approach this. And so as we're running, setting up pilots, they're actually putting up their hand and say, we're interested to look at coming in with you on the pilot so that we can learn how to finance and insure these operations moving forward. So we're quite excited that even this week, since I was away last week in Europe talking about what we have, this week already we've got insurance companies and some of our now 5 major banks, and they're in their the vice presidents of their agricultural lending side has already reached out, and we're setting up meetings to talk about what we're doing and the pilots that we want to run. And I'd like to maybe discuss that a little bit further in our meeting once I kind of finish the slide. But pretty much this is just the basic deck that we have, that we want to at a high level, share with everyone what we do and what the opportunity is. But ultimately, how we implement and move this forward, I think it's, we want to have that as a really open discussion. And hopefully this morning I can have the opportunity to talk a little bit more about that with you all. So I'm just going to stop there a bit. Bert, I still don't see anyone. I don't see the camera anymore. So,
We have a question here, Herbert.
yeah.
Hi,
Yes.
it's Patricia here. I actually have a couple of questions. Specifically, I'm wondering, and great presentation, by the way, so I think it's a very
Thank you.
interesting product. What are the risks to the crops currently? So what are a couple of main concerns for the crops at the moment?
Like the indoor crops that you're talking
Yes.
about, like that's been growing.
So what can go wrong?
What can go wrong? We're trying to figure that out too, because I'll give you an example. When we were in the Calgary facility, so I'm talking to AgriPlay and the founders there, and they said, yeah, when we first set it up, the insurance companies want to charge us something like $8,000 a month for insuring. And the reason why they were saying that is that the traditional farms use a lot of electricity. It uses a lot of water, and then and it uses those big bulbs. So what happens is that when you use that much electricity, something can go wrong because you're pushing a lot of power. So if you get a short, and then you have water in there, that causes problems. The water, there's the leakage issues. So if it leaks, there could be problems through the whole building. And then because it was using those big lamps and it generates so much heat, the plant all sweat, which makes it very humid in there. So you got a humidity problem, which puts a lot of load into the HVAC system to try and manage the humidity and the temperature. In our system, it doesn't have any of those issues because the water is pretty much used up, uses about the same amount of electricity computers use. And the design is like you're setting up a computer room, like you saw the almost like the server room type setups. Because it doesn't have a lot of heat, there's no humidity issues. So when the insurance company for the Calgary facility was done doing the walkthrough, they actually dropped the insurance to be a few $100s a month. So it went from something like $8,000 to a few $100s a month. And because they looked at it, like the risk is like no different than an office, like if you had a bunch of human beings in an office building. In terms of the crops, what we also looked at was, what are the chances that you can have mice or you got insects and so forth. So like any facility is that you put in all the deterrents for the mice with all the sound barriers. Then you got the blue lights to do the insects in case it gets in somehow through the vents and so forth. When we're looking at the designs that we want to do is that we don't want any carpets. And if we got concrete flooring and stuff is perfect. And what we want to do is do an envelope by using an epoxy all around the walls and the floors. So that seals any sort of holes. So even if there was some running water, it doesn't go anywhere because that is the sealant. It's kind of like the same type of products you may put on your garage floor. So that in the winter, when your snow melts and everything, you can still clean it out and it doesn't flood up your garage. So then it's easy to clean. And then in terms of the ceiling, is that if it's a T-bar ceiling, then we'll replace it from the tiles that you normally have to the plastic tiles. So everything is very easy to wipe down. So there'll be no mildews, no mold, because just wipe those down quite a bit. So going to your question, this is a very long answer. I apologize, Patricia. Is that when we look at it, it really comes down to operator errors more than anything else. So if someone doesn't do their job and they don't harvest in time and it gets overripe or they harvest too soon, it's not quite ripe yet. But we're not seeing a whole lot of it just grows and we just don't have any real issues with it. Do you have anything to add to that? Okay.
No, I mean for the most part, because it's a completely controlled environment, we don't have the regular stresses you might see from weather. So
Okay.
yeah,
Or insect or
or
anything like that.
insects or anything like that. Like as to combat the insects and any of that, basically, as per the build out, we have biosecure rooms. So basically, it's just another room that you have to go into to change to put on your smocks, change your shoes, and then you can actually go into the facility.
As you can tell, he's the engineer of the family.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And thank you for that answer. Also, just that in what you're showing in Calgary, you showed the vertical towers, and the photos that are in there are the vertical towers.
Yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
any current facilities that are using the model that you were showcasing in your
Actually,
slide deck?
That's a great question. I'm just waiting for the photos because we just changed over to those ones in the Calgary facility. So the Calgary facility no longer has the vertical towers. In fact, that's our meeting this afternoon to see if we can get the new photos of the ones in Calgary. The only thing that it may not have is it may have all the bins and everything, but because it'll take a month or more to grow the vegetables, it may not be the fine, the bins will not have all the nice lush vegetables on it. So we'll be getting those probably in the next, if it's not today, then next few weeks type things.
Okay, and my last
But we also
question-
want to invite you all to go down to Calgary too. Like once that's we know that's all ready to go, for you to all come down, explore it, and bring some bags with you so you can take some fresh cheese home with you.
My last was in regards to government funding, provincial or federal. So what's been the impact of government funding, and is there funding available for operators as a startup?
I'll be honest, that's not my area of expertise. In fact, we're talking about this, and I think he had much better ideas than we did. What we do know is, just from the business model itself, is a few things. Number one is there is enough profit margins in there that the operators can quite comfortably pay off all the financing within 4 years of setup, and the at today's interest rates, or actually anticipate higher than today's interest rates, because just in case the Bank of Canada keeps increasing the prime rate. Number two is that because the margin is so good, we also looked at designing it so that if a charity wants to set up a farm, so let's say some key donators, key supporters donate and set up the farm, or a couple charities combine together or what have you, is that we could generate enough revenue from that to offset or even eliminate all of the operating and administrating costs to run a charity, so that the charity literally becomes perpetual. And any sort of fundraising event that they have, we want them to be able to say something like, all monies raised today goes directly to the charity, to the cause, because there'll be zero administration cost to it. So we've been looking at from the angle of how do we support for-profits or charities, operators, the model work very well so that they can comfortably pay off in 4 years. And from that point onwards, any additional modules they buy, they can literally finance that with their own cash flow. So they don't have to put more burden on themselves, taking out more loans and so forth. Because the model is the way it is, from my limited and very limited experience dealing with government, there seems to be a lot of funding for that type of idea, because we're showing we can increase employment. We're showing we can support charitable groups or indigenous groups, for that matter. We can. We're looking at innovative ways to support communities in regards to, if we're talking about urban centers, then we're looking at how to repopulate areas that are empty right now, which then the crime and the not so great elements of our society will move into and make those areas less desirable or just dangerous, for that matter. So we can address those. So from our perspective in Edmonton, we've talked to the city of Edmonton. They're looking at funding to support our innovation. We've talked to who else did we talk to recently that escapes my mind? There's another group that we were talking to. Then they were quite interested. Sorry, I know what it is. AFSC was talking about it, and the reason why we were talking to AFSC about this and they showed an interest was we were saying if we can get it into the rural areas, especially for existing farmers and producers who may have extra space in their farms or their barns and so forth that we can convert into the indoor farming, then what it could be is that if they get hard hit on their regular crops or livestock due to weather or drought or whatever the reasons are, is that an indoor farming operation could help offset and reduce the financial hit into the family or into the operator. And so that could mean that the insurance on that side could be better managed with an organization like AFSC. So they showed an extreme interest in those type of ideas. So we're also anticipating there may be some funding there. So I'll just stop there, and I'm sorry if I'm long-winded here this morning. Bert, I still can't see anybody, so all I'm seeing is a blank screen. So I'm hoping we got some nodding heads and smiles instead of like people rolling their eyes and so forth. So I can't tell right now.
Okay, we're running out of time here, Herbert, so
Okay,
Patricia
sorry.
has one more question.
Just quickly on your 4-year plan that you mentioned, based on that, what is the estimated square footage with how many units and the startup cost that you were using as that model for that 4-year plan?
Thank you. For the 4-year, we were looking at 3,000 square feet and about 20 units is what we're looking at. So, and then I think it came out to be just under $500,000 to get the whole thing set up. The number of units could be, we could do less units and just grow them over that 4-year period as well. So there's a lot of flexibility of how we want to set that up. But I would say if you're thinking of a budget is something like $500,000, it's kind of a good number to look at. And if there was government funding, I would anticipate it would be 50% government funded, and then the other 50% would be private industry. And what we're looking at Trustbex is that if we're partnering up with, say, your county and so forth, is that we're happy to look at how to bring that the $250,000 to play, and then that way it doesn't put the burden on the county to come up with the money. The county's job to see if we can get financing from the government, and then we'll work with private industry and your local community leader, business leaders, whoever wants to get involved, and the banks and so forth to help figure out $250,000.
Okay, well, I think we have to call it here. Hubert?
Thank you, everyone, and feel free to reach out anytime if you have additional questions. And we just appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you today.
Well, thank you for joining us. And
Thank you.
It is very interesting technology, and hopefully we can get something going together.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Very good, thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
You too. Have a great day.
I apologize. I wasn't expecting a time change for the meeting. I sat outside for 10 minutes thinking like, where is everybody? I called Alan.
I was on silent. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm like, sorry.
Any comments on that?
Very interesting technology, for sure.
Yeah, I respect that we had to shut the presentation down from a time perspective, but following on what Patricia was saying, it'd be interesting if they had some sort of a pro forma, like here's some revenue projections. There seems to be a big variance between product to product, and so.
Like from the traditional one to their model, you're talking? Yeah.
And what they said their costs, it sounded to me like the cost for some product would be as low as $1,
Yeah,
and for others it might be up.
Depending
Selling
on-
tomatoes versus lettuce.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
But-
Depends how long it takes to grow and
Sure.
so on, yeah.
They were telling us some, they can grow in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
are a
Yeah.
month. So there's so many
So
different
that data
variations.
should be able to extrapolate that, based on quantities, expected quantities, and kind of.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't know how else to say this. What was the point of them presenting? They want to use some of our property, they want us to buy in, they want us to,
I think
Find
awareness
people?
and,
okay.
you never know, there could be people,
They're looking
All
for
around.
investment opportunities.
Okay, so it's like connecting people.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's basically what economic development is.
We just haven't seen a lot of it, so that's
Connecting
why.
people together.
Yeah, trying to get the word out about
Yeah,
their
instead of
technology.
us
Gotcha.
coming up with new business, it's to get the people connected. to get it-
100%, yeah, the
the
networking, that's.
Go ahead, Bert.
So, the conversation that I've had with them, and they did do a presentation to Bruce and I last week as well. And the recommendation coming from our CAO was have them come make a presentation to the ECDev committee so that we can try and determine exactly what your question was. What's kind of the path forward with them? What are some of the things we can possibly do? And so the meeting that I had with them yesterday, there's a couple of interesting things. And so number one, and Bruce has kind of reiterated this, right? We as Woodlands County, we're not in the business of being in business. So it isn't probably something that the county itself would take a look at. The opportunities for any of our existing local growers to grow their GDP, diversify any of their on-farm operations. We've certainly seen more farm stores and more local direct growing. And what's interesting with this is if you are a farmer's market vendor, anything that you grow through this would be under your farmer's market license, right? So you wouldn't be able to put these materials directly in the grocery store without them having the provincial or maybe even the federal health inspection part of it, right? That's always one of the biggest barriers on some of the production stuff to get into the grocery store for human consumption. But what Laos have talked about is, there's maybe those possibilities for somebody to even be growing something specific for a specific restaurant, right? So there's some interesting business models around what the technology could be used for and how it might end up generating GDP for any of our existing local growers, or maybe it's somebody who's a new opportunity. The second part of it is the creating new employment piece. What came out in the conversation that I had with them yesterday is with the system redesign and going to the bins, they've designed it so that folks that are confined to a wheelchair or that might be reduced mobility, this is something that they might be able to take on and to do as a task. And so that was kind of one of the other ideas was how do you get people that are maybe, underemployed or not employed back into the workforce. And so based on the amount of labor and that sort of thing involved, there might be some opportunities there. The idea was what they're looking for is some kind of a pilot project rural test facility. And so what role we as the county could play in that is basically what you said, Kirsten. Do we have land? I mean, we don't have an existing facility that we could just kind of turnkey and put them into. But we do have land that the county has that depending on what the committee would like us to decide to do, we can look a little bit further down that path, right? I mean, I've already spent probably 8 to 10 hours on this in the last couple of weeks. And so before I spend a lot more time, we wanted to make sure we sort of had authorization from the committee to say, yes, we want to further investigate this and we should look at what's the pathway to a pilot project, because there is one federal program, the CEDD through Prairies Canada. It's the Community Economic Development Diversification. And that's a 50% funded program with a for-profit company. We could be a government partner and we could maybe look at that. I don't know exactly about the viability, but that was kind of the first thing that twigged. But there might be more that we can look at. It just depends on where this group would like to steer our activities.
Christian.
So in anticipation for this, do you have a list of our growers in Woodlands?
Yeah, so our growers that are on our business directory, and we've already advised them that if they want to contact our businesses directly, please use the business directory and reach out to the growers we have.
So who is that?
What do you mean?
Who do we have on our business directory for growers?
There's about 70 or so businesses that are on there, but that includes all of our recent farm stores. So Blue Ridge Farms, Backwoods Buffalo Ranch, Wild Violet Acres is on there, Silver Moonlight is on there. The two other greenhouses, Twin Acres Greenhouse is on there. We've referred them to the chamber to talk to all of the vendors at the Chamber Farmers Market, so all of that work's been done.
Perfect.
Okay, Alan,
So, Bert, I just need a little clarity when you're saying you're looking for direction from this committee as to whether to pursue something that would be on Woodlands County property. Are you talking about a property that kind of meets this criteria, that has 3,000 square feet and an HVAC that does 4 exchanges per hour, or are you talking raw land, or what do you mean?
Well, there's and this is where Bruce and I have sort of had the discussion, and I'm struggling with sort of the pathway we want to do, right? Our role as the connector, I mean, we've kind of fulfilled that, right? But what Laos have said is that, you know, of the municipalities they've worked with so far, they really like Woodlands. They feel there's potential here, and if there's for us to come up with some kind of a government-private partner, that's something we would be interested in. So really the idea is do we want to take a look at pursuing that? Do we want to try to pursue this idea of figuring
No,
out?
that's not my question. My question is, are you talking about in a building somewhere, or new construction, or what are you talking about?
It could be any of those. So that's the idea, is when I talk about how would we pursue a pathway, it would be to take a look at each of those options and try and determine what makes the most sense. Does it make sense to have them look at a lease on county land? Does it have them make sense to look at a lease at the airport? Do we look at trying to find another local partner that's already got a building that we could bring in as another partner, where we would just, you know, like what kind of role would we like our ECDev to play in connecting them with someone local? Or do we say we've already done our job and there's businesses there that they can contact privately?
Okay, so just to follow that, I need to a little bit. I don't think I can make a decision right now. But I think from a real 30,000 foot level, I don't want the county to be in business. That's what I'm thinking. Like if there was, you know, like the Trident building or whatever in Fort Assiniboine, if there was something like that was sitting vacant that you could just boom, go into.
Yeah.
But I don't see those opportunities.
No, and in the inventory we've done, and I've even asked a couple of our other county managers, we don't have a conceivable space to put them into right now with the county buildings and that kind of thing that we have, right? But that's not to say that there might be somebody out there that doesn't have an empty barn or an empty
Right.
commercial building or
Right.
that sort of thing. So it's just a question of what level of involvement is the committee happy with me doing with these guys? Because we always have to be careful from that you know, we can play the role of the connector, but when it gets into, you know, business negotiations and all of that, that isn't really our role as an ECDev committee. And so, you know, especially when it's something where we have growers that are already in this field, you know, we want to make sure that we are not harming one business by trying to attract another. And so that was the idea in bringing them to the committee, was to show everybody the technology and the way that things are developing, but to try and determine what role do you want me to play as we move forward with them, or do we just say, hey, take a look at our business directory, reach out to those businesses yourselves, and we're here to help with a development permit.
yeah, just myself as on council, government does not do business well.
Agreed.
And I am not comfortable with, even if we did have a facility, I wouldn't want to see the county get into business. Then you're competing against your other residents.
I agree.
Yeah, thanks. Add some formality to the, so thanks, through the chair of the committee. I could see potential in asking Bert to reach out to those businesses. And again, you don't want to exclude anybody, so you kind of have to set it out, broadcast it, and potentially helping organize a Teams meeting, not here, but they did it, and anybody that wanted to could log into it, and we just broadcast the opportunity. And like, do you say, if that's a yes, do you say Hubert is likely to reach out to people, or do you leave that out of the messaging?
Well, and I mean, I think that realistically, if we're going to do that, the best way for us to do it is to say, you know, we could go to the point of providing a space within county facilities for them to hold a meeting, right? Or we could recommend, we recommend that you rent the Blue Ridge Hall, do an information night, reach out to all of our local growers. We might be able to help you to publicize something like that. But I mean, really, it's, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are looking for the investors. And so if there isn't a county role to play directly, then we need to know what's the comfort level for us to play that indirect role of continuing on with connecting, right?
So I think you've said it multiple times. Our role is a connector. So facilitating bringing like the farmers and the greenhouses and whatnot in our area and connecting them, whether it's through a virtual Teams meeting or holding an open house and inviting people to come and see, that's our role, I think. And that's about where it ends, is connecting. So if you've connected them like through the business directory, I think that's a bit of a cop-out in a sense. I think we could do a bit more as far as maybe trying to facilitate an open house or facilitate like a Teams meeting, some sort of virtual thing, and maybe specifically asking the ones that we know about. Like if we have businesses that have registered on our business directory, here's a benefit of being there. You can connect those ones that have actually registered on the business directory with an opportunity like this, and it helps to promote. There's a benefit to being on the business directory, to connecting them, but it's kind of like a Site Lake thing. It's like, you need to make, as a business, you need to make yourself visible in order to grow, whether you're a greenhouse or a farming opportunity or whatever. Being on our business directory has a benefit because you connect people who have registered with groups like this to say, here's opportunities. And then it's up to the businesses to pick up the opportunities, in my opinion. And if nobody is interested, then your role's done.
I'm just looking at the business directory. I don't think I had my hand up.
Just a couple of things. I completely agree with kind of where our conversation is going, and as far as the connection part of it, it may very well be a good opportunity that we could partner with maybe the Business Support Network and the Chamber of Commerce or something like that, to then it's opening up a conversation like that to our whole area. And I think everybody could benefit from it, and we could benefit rather than shouldering the entire, connection opportunity on ourselves. Then it would be a way to partner with those organizations.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So with the BSN, we can certainly refer them to that. I know in the past, we haven't let businesses come in to speak directly about business operations, right? If they're coming in as an advisor on something. So we can do that, and I have already recommended that they join the chamber or get involved with the local chamber if that's what they would like to do, to have a bit of a higher profile, because then that opens up all of those, the chamber communications and everything to them, and they can do that part of it. But I think those are definitely good options, and I'll make sure that they are aware of both.
And just with the project itself, I know I have some concerns about the proof of concept, essentially just because it's still in its infancy. And when I asked the question, for example, about the $500,000 startup, now we already had a 3,000 square foot building. If that building has a concrete floor or an epoxy floor or a carpeted floor to start with, if it has the T-bar ceiling like these that all have to be replaced, just those two items alone in that's 3,000 square feet are a very substantial cost, I would think. So the 500,000, does that not include that? I think there's a great deal of information that hasn't been proven yet.
That's what that pro forma that was asking.
Absolutely.
I was surprised they didn't have, something.
I think they're
They're
fairly new.
Yeah.
by everyone.
So so Trust Bix has been around for a while, and they are a publicly traded company. And it was just earlier in September that they actually acquired AFSI. So this has been a very recent acquisition within the last couple of weeks. And I know in the conversation with them,
Last couple of weeks?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so that's where, based on the past relationship we've had with Laos and the meeting, we're the first rural municipality that they reached out to. So he's been to, he was in Europe and last week and had meetings with 5 countries. He's speaking to the APEC conference next week about this technology, but we're the first rural that he's spoken to. But I know ideally what they're looking at is if they could get a pilot project set up, capturing data is one of the key things that they need to do, and they understand that. So capturing data around carbon, carbon sequestration, or not sequestration, lowering the carbon footprint, water, overall weight, total energy, staffing time, what the exact production yield would be, how to create the business model. So as you mentioned around finance, insurance, maybe having that opportunity to do sort of that pro forma or an integrated kind of a business plan where they can present that to direct investors, and then how to employ those folks that might have mobility or workplace challenges. Those are all things that they have on their wish list for what they would like to capture and learn more about through a pilot project.
Okay, we've spent an hour on this, and I would like to get a motion on the direction we want to go. Tricia?
Specifically, so that, not sure how to word it, but then I'd like to make a motion that we accept the information as presented and as an action to reach out to the BSN and the chamber to see about the three organizations hosting an information session for the public.
Okay, sorry, making notes.
BSN,
Please.
Business Support Network.
Yeah.
Chamber.
Okay, so let me do that back to make sure I have that right. That the presentation by the delegation be accepted as information, and that we reach out to the BSN network and the Chamber of Commerce to host an information session.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Alan?
Yeah, question to the motion. Are we leaving out the folks that are on our, like specifically the folks that are on our business directory? And, you know, just,
We can make sure that the information gets through to them. So if there is that opportunity for us to do this joint event, then we can certainly make sure that those individuals are emailed the.
okay, so how about we leave this, vote on this motion, and then I'll make a separate motion that we ask Bert to reach out specifically to make our
Okay.
business directory members aware.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? So passed.
And so then I'll move that the committee direct Bert to reach out to the members of our business community to make them aware of the upcoming events through the BSN and the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? Passed. We're catch up there.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna fill my coffee cup.
And Bruce, I apologize, I should have told you this earlier, but I have to leave at 11. So I think we'll be done by then, but I just want to let you know that I gotta go.
Well, we'll still have quorum if you.
Sure, okay.
Okay, and so then the second motion is that the EDO sends the information to the members of our business community to make sure that they are aware of the event. Now, should we not be able to do an event with those two entities?
Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll come
Okay.
back to the drawing board.
Okay, fair enough.
That's not complicated. Let's wait for Shelley to get back.
Are we taking a break or are we moving on?
No, she just went to her. Well, I guess we can just. Okay, next is 5.1. You got that, Bert?
Yes, so on to, this is our strategic thinking. Sorry, I buried my agenda to make, so yes, to make sure 5.1 captured in the right spot. Okay, so here, what I've done is, just for the committee's information, the background is there. We have worked on this document and this information to be presented through to all of council, and unfortunately, the strategic planning session, where it was supposed to be presented, has been postponed, and we don't have a new date for that just yet. So what I wanted to do was to make sure that I had attached the revised information, revised as of our last meeting, to make sure that I had everything correct. And we will get this presented to council as soon as possible for review.
Go ahead, Al.
I read through it and I'm like, yeah, I remember that. It's been a while since I looked at this document. But one thing that stood out is that I'm not sure that the timelines that we have attached really are achievable, and so maybe we should move them to 24.
Which ones?
All of these timeframes are March 2023, and I think some of them, like we do have an energy subcommittee, we do have a promotion subcommittee, but some of the ones, I don't think those tasks have been completed, right?
Did you have one in particular, or?
That one page thing. That's an example.
Yeah, no, the one page was
Okay.
done, and we did have that available for the trade fair.
Okay, so then what I should ask you, Bert, is do you feel there's anything on this list that the timeframes are not appropriate?
That's an excellent question. I think, and I know I reviewed the other one, I don't remember if I reviewed this one after I had.
Because
done
we're
the
only gonna
updates.
meet one more time, right? Like, do we have a agricultural task force, an energy transition task force?
So we haven't created those two directly yet. So yes, if we wanted to move those to being 2024 items,
Especially if they're not currently budgeted for.
yeah.
I thought everything could be very doable.
Yeah, it sounds
Adding
like it
stuff
is.
to the agenda items, I'm like, I think most of these things could have been, our last meeting and this meeting, it's been a third of the year.
Mhm.
So I feel like we should have been able to complete a third of these tasks already.
But so back to my question, are those the only two items that you think should bump and?
I think so, because I mean, for the last two meetings, like going to the agenda items, for the last two meetings, those 8.1, 9.1, 10.1, they've been on the agenda.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So everything's done except for those two things then, right?
To a very large extent, I think so, yes.
Okay.
Patricia.
The newsletters, minutes, strategies from other municipalities. That's something so far that I haven't seen included.
Yeah, it's attached to this meeting package, it was attached to the last meeting package as well.
Okay.
I think unless I didn't attach the news, I had meant to. Yeah, the Edmonton Global and the Invest Alberta annual report, those are both there.
But nothing from Whitewater, Lac-Saint-Anne, or,
Because we don't have a White Quarter Lac-Saint-Anne report that I'm aware of.
I met with I'm in a different committee with Rhonda, and she said she is more than welcome to share any information that you would like. All she wants is cooperation, so she would.
Yeah, well, and in the past, we have shared our minutes and that sort of thing back and forth. All of our stuff is public and on our website, theirs is not.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason, I mean, the reason that we don't have White Court minutes attached is because I just haven't reached out to her to ask. I mean, we certainly can. I know they're going through, similar to what we did this spring, that's what they're working on this fall, is they're doing a bit of a strategic update and that sort of thing. And we've just talked about that recently in the last couple of weeks with some of the things that they have going on and all of that. But yeah, I mean, we can approach them and I could ask for her minutes to attach to our package if you would like me to.
Can I move that as an action, or?
Yeah, so I think that's really valuable for this committee to have an understanding of what that committee is doing, how they differ, what, things that are similar.
You talking to town?
Yeah, like I think that's kind of a no-brainer, so. They have I saw a document. It's similar to our overall strategic plan, but it's a strategic plan that is specific to their economic development activity with goals for the year, projects that they're working on, and So it was laid out so that any member of the public could just look at it and see what the committee is doing. I think I would like this committee to work towards that, that, you know, that we're proud that, hey, this is what's going on.
Absolutely. Just that was exactly my intent when I had brought that up originally, is that I think we should know particularly what all of our neighboring municipalities are doing. And, you know, the intent that I was after, even if that means that you specifically send an email or a phone call to each of our neighboring municipalities prior to a meeting, just as a quick update. Hey, what's happening is, you know, our group would like to hear what's going on with you. You know, and if they share 3 points of what's going on with them, then it could just become part of our package. And it's a great way to foster good communication going forward with all of our neighbors, I believe.
But that is the intent of what our RITA and our RITA membership is for. All of the regional updates are offered through the RITA.
The biggest thing is that right now we're not seeing a lot of our, the RITA information as part of this group. And I just think it's a way of going forward that will provide information to this group for what's going on.
Did you have your hand up, Christian?
I thought I did, and I kind of lost my train of thought because I was listening to Alan, and he was so.
Can I bored you to death?
No, I was.
You said
I
the
just
Rita has
listened.
that information?
Well, so we used to do roundtable updates through the RITA, and I wish that Peter were here today to address some of the RITA items, because, I mean, our RITA right now is down to, unfortunately, just 3 municipalities. But it's because both Lac St. Anne, Barrhead County, Barrhead County have pulled out this year. And we really don't have an update from Barrhead County because they don't have an economic development person. Lac St. Anne's the same way, they don't have an economic development person.
So who's in our Rita?
So right now it's us, Swan Hills and Mayerthorpe. And
Okay.
we are in the process of working with our regional economic development specialists, our REDs, through Jobs, Economy and Trade to grow that number before the end of the year. We actually have a meeting coming up at the beginning of October.
Okay, Alan first.
So I think the committee needs to be careful as to directing Bert's day-to-day activities. Like, I understand what you're saying. It'd be great to get a call and, you know, have a few minutes of an update. But to me, that's a network of EDOs that set that up themselves, and, you know, they figure that out and they generate something. But to ask for minutes from those meetings and ask for copies of their strategic plan, I think is not difficult, and I think we should be part of that. So, and just to clarify Whitecourt's role within the RITA, they've never been part of the growth RITA. So you wouldn't get that update from Whitecourt at a growth table.
Now, what was a massive shift was I was actually, when I had my conversation with Rhonda, they actually asked for the RITA operational plan and the cost for RITA membership. So we did send that to them.
Good.
And that's one of the things that they'll be considering for the first time. I shouldn't say for the first time in recent years. They'll be considering that as part of that strategic meeting that they're having. I think they were a little bit surprised at the membership rate, because what the RITA had done several years ago was we put in a maximum cap of $10,000. Actually, I think it's $9,000 per year for a municipality, because the RITA membership is $1.20 per person. And so basically for $9,000 a year, be part of it if that's what they decide to.
And thank you. That's also kind of building on what Alan said exactly, is that was the point of why I was asking for this particular information, is because it wouldn't be available through the RITA. So, and going forward, with any luck, Whitecourt will join it and we'll get more cooperation and the RITA will get built up from that. But I think this is just another way of accessing that information.
Do we need to make a motion then for Bert to contact Whitecourt EDO and get minutes for the next meeting?
Yeah, so it's within this operational plan there somewhere, right? Where is it?
Yeah, it is
The
number.
motion has been made in the past, if I remember.
Yeah, but I think we need some clarity around it. So
It
provide
is
news
number
from other
1, 2,
municipalities.
3, 4, 5,
So-
6, 7, 9.
And so that one I think should change. Well, no, you can leave it the same. It's just that you know that if you're not getting, if there's no EDO in those other municipalities, you're not gonna get minutes, because they're not gonna have meetings, but Whitecourt will. So that does capture it. So I think we don't even need a motion, I don't think. It's
No,
there.
I don't think so.
No,
It's in
okay,
there.
it's just a maybe clarification.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it doesn't come back next time, we could say, how come it's not back,
Yeah,
you know?
you know, I will certainly approach Rhonda and ask, and we can certainly do that, yeah.
Okay, can we get a motion on this?
So the changes I have, so we've changed the time frame to 2024 for those last, second last and third last item for the two task forces. Other than that, if everything else looks okay, then what we could do is have a motion to say, accept it as amended with those two amendments.
So, I'm gonna keep my committee hat on now. Do we ask council for more money in the budget for more staffing? Do we put that as a wish list?
We can.
It might get, but,
What kind of staffing?
more people to do what,
Oh, members.
not committee members, more people in the economic, development, what-
Team?
yeah, just
Team of one?
Woodlands Economic Development. There are
Absolutely.
some municipalities that have 10 people
And there's some that have none,
and some that have none.
so, yeah.
agree. That's something that I've brought up basically since I've been on this committee. So as well, it's just that I would like to see some funding set aside for administrative support for Bert.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, like, how about a half position? Could we, does that sound reasonable as an ask, do you think?
So we could add that to the point four
It never hurts
discussion
to
then?
ask.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but we can ask.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, and a
Gotta keep-
compromise might even be part-time support. Like if there's some sort of admin role that could be
Yeah.
partially 50% supportive or something,
So
would be
where-
better than nothing.
Sorry to interrupt. Where are you seeing it?
So what I am saying is if we add that, just that as a third bullet point then,
Okay.
that ask for a half-time admin support position as part of the 2024 budget deliberations.
and just to qualify that a little bit further, I would really like to impress upon council, and it's something that, you know, from this perspective, I don't know that we have the ability to do. I think we've had a great job over the last number of years of cutting costs and streamlining, and, you know, thankfully we're in a better financial position than we were in the past. But we can't cut our way out of a revenue situation, and we need to be increasing revenue in this county. And just a fact, as far as I'm concerned. And the only way we can do that is through economic development. So it just really is something that I think that Bert's definitely been working at capacity, and even a half-time position to be able to handle some of the more mundane tasks that, you know, his time could be better suited actually attracting business to the county. It would definitely be an investment that we really need to look forward to. So just basically want to be conveying that to council, how important that 20 hours a week could be and the benefit that we could really gather from that.
Yeah, good point. That, it's not just a number. It's, and could we say, Bert, that your time spent per month specifically on growth has reduced and will continue to reduce? Like it has to, right?
I would say that's probably pretty fair. I mean, this last year, when I look at all that we've accomplished, but I mean, I greatly enjoyed being the representative from the county as the liaison on to the Bicentennial Committee. But that was a huge amount of time. And it created a lot of overtime as well, because those were all evening meetings and all of that. And I did my best to, I mean, I was at a few of them in person, but most of them were through Teams and that sort of thing, right? But yeah, I mean, there's, I think there's a way to be able to time a little bit more of business investment, because
Yeah,
there's a
but my
lot
question
that-
is about growth. Are you gonna spend less time working specifically with growth?
Sorry, I, by growth, I thought you meant
No.
business growth. I'm sorry. That was my bad. I misunderstood the question. Hopefully, yes.
Well, how come you can't say yes? Like,
Well, because,
why does Woodlands have to support that from an admin point of view?
because right now I'm the only EDO that's available to support growth.
Yeah.
And that's the problem we have. So if they had filled the executive director position, which I have told them is a priority, and which they were told as of last week is a priority by the Reds and by government, they need to fill that position so they have their own staff person. We did have it filled for 3 months this summer, but she decided that she didn't want to stay for the long term. So she took it on a temporary role, and now Karen St. Martin, who's the former CAO from Mayorthorpe, Karen had stepped into the role for completing the AIP application and doing a couple of other things. But yes, there's a significant time spent at growth. I am trying to limit it, but ideally, what we need is growth to have its own staff person. Once that happens, I will be spending much less time on growth, yes.
I don't know what the difference is.
Well,
What's growth versus the EDO role?
So-
I'm not sure.
so, Bert is employed by Woodlands County.
Correct.
Growth is an organization
Oh.
that other municipalities form, and it has an admin team. And Bert has been, not just been a member attending meetings, but he's been that admin person for the past 3 years.
Off and on, yeah. I mean, there's always been an advisory role, but
Sure.
certainly
Yeah.
over the last year, I've spent a
But I
lot more
think-
time doing some of the day-to-day.
So it's a whole different committee
Right.
or group or
And so
whatever.
Completely separate legal
We
entity.
asked him earlier last year, how much time does he spend in a month in terms of man hours? And he ballparked it at 20%. So 20% of his time is devoted to growth. And that's simply not fair for that organization to expect Woodlands.
To donate that
Well, donated, and then we lose 20%
of his time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair with it, I mean, we do pay $8,700 a year as our portion of the membership towards the growth organization. So we're already putting a significant financial contribution in as well. Councillor Kulkin is our rep on the growth committee,
Right.
and he's a significant amount of time board member on that committee.
Those meetings typically are not held within our municipality, so there's
Travel
lots,
and- yeah.
there's lots of costs associated with that organization, and if it starts to flourish and show some fruit, fine, but it really hasn't been, and you know the membership has dropped significantly. If Waker comes in, that's going to be a good thing, and if you have an admin person to manage it, but to continue on, I have to voice my objection that, you know, you're supporting that out of the goodness of your heart, but also on Woodlands County taxpayer dime. And that's just not fair.
Yeah, I have spoken to Bert numerous times about quit doing that.
And so council needs to hear that, right?
Yeah.
You know, so when we're talking about an admin person, this conversation has to come up, that currently, you know, you're spending 15 to 20% of your time on the growth file, and council needs to be aware of that, because I don't think people really are.
Christian?
I was going to say, just exactly that. How can you ask for more admin and more time when he's donating it to somebody else?
Right.
I was just going to say, can we call the question? Are we going to vote on this one?
I did call the question.
Okay.
We don't have a motion yet.
Can we accept strategic thinking recommendation actions as information after it's been amended? As amended.
Yeah, I would say just we're amending,
Those to 2024 and adding the admin request.
halftime admin request.
Okay. Any questions on that motion? No? Call the question, all in favor? Passed. Okay, new business, 6.1, Marine Power involved in 4401.
Okay, this has been incredibly exciting. And I've had frequent conversations with both Marine and with Vault 4401 to make sure that we are, from the county perspective, providing as much support as we possibly can, doing everything we can to understand and assist in their process and all of that. So we did supply a support letter for them when their application was open. And so that letter is publicly available. They did also receive letters from Mayor Thorpe, from Whitecourt, and I believe one through the Rita as well. But where we're at in the process is everybody's probably aware of, we have both federal guidelines around energy and how the energy sector is going to develop, and provincial ones, and there's a bit of a disparity right now, so there's a task force to address some of that. How much of that is going to reflect back on this project, we're not quite sure at this point. But it is very important for everybody to know that the details of Marine Developments are public. Their website is up and running. I mean, it would be one of the, if not the largest single investment ever in Woodlands County in regards to the power plant, and it ties in directly to Vault 4401, which has indicated they want to establish a regional carbon hub. Marine would be their biggest customer. So where we're at on the application is after they did the public open house and had the initial application in, they have to now submit a detailed application that addresses, there was 5 pages of concerns that came out of the public consultation. And so they need to add the estimated about 200 pages to their initial project description to get the final project description. And so they had 30 days in which to do that. They put the project application on hold. They can take that hold off at any point in time, but just to basically make sure that they put in, as they quoted to me, a fulsome application that addresses all concerns. And so that's where we're at in the application process. We're waiting to hear from Marine that yes, they've got their application complete. They're ready to restart that application process. And then they should hear within 30 days from the time their application is submitted whether they've been approved.
Really? 30 days?
30 days?
That's the timeline that they had told me. So they're hoping to know by the end of October that they will have the approval to just fall under the provincial regulatory body. If that happens, then the project should proceed according to their timeline that's there. If that doesn't happen, then it gets into a significantly more gray area, and it could add years to the project, because they would have to do a full federal environmental assessment on all of it. And the framework at this point isn't apparently in place, that the province and the feds have agreed what the framework would be. And so, yeah. So anyways, that's where we're at. It's they are a fantastic team of top people with lots of experience, and they are doing everything they possibly can to make sure that their federal application is full and complete in every way and answers every question and concern that it possibly can do. That's what we have to say.
Yeah, there's nothing more we can do.
Not at this point, no.
I move to accept 6.1 as presented.
Okay.
As information presented? How do you say it?
Yeah, project details presented be accepted as information. If you go with
That.
the wording that's there. If you go with the wording that's there. But I mean, hey, whatever works.
Right at the,
The project details presented be accepted as information. Yes, that is it.
okay, any questions on the motion? None. Call the question, all in favor? Passed. Next, we go to wood plan updates, action items.
It's been a busy summer. I did my best to just hit the highlights. What's great is I think everybody here has been able to attend and to be part of some of the different events and some of the different things we've had go on. So if anyone has comments about our parades that we were at, because Ellen is a stalwart volunteer and wonderful council rep at all of our parades. Shelley may have something to say on cycling. Bruce may have something to say about the brigade. Patricia, thank you for coming out for the bicentennial event. I am really sorry I did not have more time to spend with you.
Oh, no, it was all good.
But I literally, poor Patricia, I basically almost kind of physically pushed her out of the way because the truck I needed to be on was driving away. So I'm so sorry about that. And Kirsten, I know I don't have it on here, but the work that you've been doing with the health committee and all of that,
H
if
part.
you wanted to add some comments on that, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, we had our first barbecue, and it was absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, it was really good. The Reeve came out, the mayor came out. We had some nice pictures. Like half of our, maybe it's over half of our staff members live in the county. And it obviously serves our whole community, and so it's really, really important.
Any success stories on hiring?
Not yet, but it's hard. We're trying to work with, retain, and recruit. I think their focus is a little bit less on recruitment because I don't know if they can specifically recruit, but they can attract. So we can try and make our community really attractive. So we've had a lot of med students, some nursing students, and Rhonda has reached out to all of them and welcomed them to town. And lots of them actually said, like, oh, I was really surprised to get a phone call from this person saying welcome. And they're like, oh, it was really interesting. So we've had a lot of good feedback like that. A lot of the pharmacists gave baskets out for rural health professionals. And he's like, I messaged my pharmacist group that I'm part of, and they're like, we've never received anything like that. So it's really putting a really positive light on our crew here. So it's really good. I did have one question though. I saw that the Whitecourt ECDEV committee was putting on an expo, or they're advertising it, a career and education expo at the high school. Are we involved in that?
Yeah, Career Expo is tomorrow. We're part of the planning group. We
Okay.
actually provide $4,000 in funding towards the event as well from the
Okay, great.
ECDEV budget. Yeah, we've been part of the Career Expo for years.
Because I saw, like, it wasn't on
Tomorrow?
here.
Yeah.
It wasn't on here, and I didn't see your name on the thing, so
Yeah,
I didn't
Woodlands
see.
County logo is there.
I'm gonna politely disagree, but.
It was on the copy that I was sent when we did all of the advertising, and it should be on the website. Because there is a web portal, but we used to have our own website for Career Expo. Now it's housed as part of the town's website. But county logos and everything are there. We've actually got a crew of 3 of us, myself, Sheldon, who's our disaster services manager, is going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be focusing on volunteer recruitment for the fire department.
Awesome.
And then our HR coordinator is there as well to talk about the county opportunities. So we have the 3 of us there tomorrow. We've got a 10 by 20 booth space.
Oh, it's at the
And-
bottom. I see it now. That sounds great.
Yeah.
It's nice when you can, I don't care whose website it's on, as long as it's on somebody's.
Yeah, no, and so the schools do the bulk of the publicity on that. We do have some adult job seekers that attend as well, but it's about 1,000 students from the 2 school divisions.
Fantastic.
And the kids come from Valley View to Onaway, from Northern Gateway, and the kids from St. Joe's attend as well, but I think it's just the 9 to 12s this year.
So should that be involved on this
Um,
25?
It's on, actually, if you look later on our list, I believe I've got Career Expo on that.
I saw it, but I can't find it in this
You know what,
package.
yeah, very last item, so Career Expo, so that's on page 32.
Okay, I see. Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome, thanks for the question.
September 20.
Anybody else have anything? Okay.
Not sure if this is the right place for this under work plan updates, but I do have a concern that I'd like to bring forward and I haven't asked, I didn't specifically ask Bert about this in advance or anything, but I was recently at the Chamber of Commerce meeting and there were no representatives there from Woodlands County. And I find that very concerning. So if it's something that, if it's a Bert function to go there, because I know you're at lots of them.
Yep.
And, you know, if you're busy or have a schedule conflict, then it's something that certainly as a resident, I would like to see a member of council or a member of the Economic Development Committee there for that purpose. I just think that it was really disappointing as a resident to not see any representation there when there was certainly representation from the town.
There was in council that we were supposed to have representation, so it could be just somebody couldn't make it.
The meeting last week is the first one I think we've had in the 5 years I've been here that we didn't have somebody there. Unfortunately, I had a commitment that day and I wasn't able to go, and there was nobody from council that was available to go that day as well. But part of it as well, with what they were talking about the sale of the building, when that had come up at the earlier meeting, we did stand up and we did recuse ourselves from voting and from being part of that discussion because we didn't want to influence what the chamber does with the building one way or the other. So of all the meetings that we had to miss, that was probably one of the best ones because we really didn't want to have a vote or to be part of that member discussion. But where we used to do what the chamber had been doing up until last year was at each meeting, each municipality was asked to give a bit of an update. Now they've changed that to, it's a rolling, you give an update once every 4 meetings. So we'll have an update from Mayerthorpe, an update from Whitecourt, an update from Woodlands, and then an update from Community Futures and the BSN. And they're gonna roll that through on those 4 meetings. So they're working on giving us the meeting schedule for next year so that we know that we have the Reeve set and ready to be able to go and make his 10-minute presentation at each of those chamber meetings.
And just to speak to the timing issue, that chamber meeting conflicts with our council meetings often. And it just, we tried to work with the chamber. So there's a recognition from council that we need a presence there.
And the problem we have as well, so coming up in October, we actually have 2 chamber conflicts. So the first is they've set their AGM, but that does conflict. There is a council meeting on the same day as the chamber AGM. So that's going to be the question, is whether the Reeve would be able to get out of here in time to go into to attend the AGM. And I've already identified that with Alicia. I talked about it last week. And then the second thing, and it'll come up, I think, it might even have been under here, but the ministry dinner is on the evening of October 18th, which is also the same evening as the Chamber Economic Forum. And so we have a scheduling conflict for that event as well. So this year the format has changed. The Economic Forum this year is going to be a panel discussion, and you'll see the poster for the event is in the meeting package, but Reeve Cush will be there to be part of the panel and to do that part of it. But the question will be, do you want me at the ministry dinner or do you want me at the Economic Forum? And so we do have 1 seat reserved for the ministry dinner this year. It was sold out, but EDA did me a solid last week and they found me a ticket. So.
Well, if I was sitting in Reeve Cush's shoes, I think I'd want you there as a support person in case he needed it. That'd be my thoughts.
In regards to the ministry dinner, it was the same scheduling conflict last year. And I went to the ministry dinner and really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really great event. This year I'm going to the Economic Forum, but certainly I would think that if there's other members at large that may want to go to the ministry dinner, it also might be a really good opportunity for them, like it was for me last year.
So this conflict, has it been presented to council yet?
Not to council directly, no. This is the first spot we've had it. I know Reeve Cush is aware. I had made him aware.
But he's going to the forum for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So there could be a member of council that attends that as well.
There you go.
Not to exclude a committee member, but that might be what council wants to do with that. And if they don't, then we would ask Bert to contact committee members. Is that fair?
I'm not interested in the ministry dinner.
I can't attend.
You're unavailable and you're, okay, so yeah.
So
Well,
it's a moot point.
that it became for sure.
Well, I thought here at the forum, there's really nothing for you to do there.
Yeah.
You could have his speech that he's got to say, and that's it. So I think it's a good opportunity for Bert to go to the ministry dinner.
Okay.
And from a purely personal vanity perspective, it would be the first EDA event that I've been to where I'm there as economic developer. So that'd be kind of fun too.
That's
Okay, do we need a motion then?
Well,
To accept this is.
no, I want to talk about the carbon capture conference that I went to. It was very, how can I say this? The information that we received was, it just cleared up my, I don't know. I didn't understand the carbon capture. For 2 days there, I understand. Carbon capture has actually been, they have been working at Boundary Dam in Saskatchewan since 1991. So it's not real new technology, but they've been working on it. But in another way, for the volume that we're gonna be getting now, that is new technology. And, like just the Pathways group and the cost that they are gonna be, I can't talk to it, my throat's sore. The cost to do that development is unbelievable. The pipe that's coming out of Fort McMurray down to Cold Lake is a 24-inch, 1-inch thick. And every 3 joints, they have to put a thicker joint in as a stop, because they're pumping liquid CO2 at 2,600 PSI.
Wow.
And if that pipe ruptures, by having a thicker pipe, will stop the rupture.
Like a crack, you're
Yeah,
talking, yeah,
They
Stress
think
crack.
if the pipe breaks, it'll do it lengthways.
yeah. Stress cracking, yeah.
And so, the field they're putting it in, or the aquifer, is 17,000 square kilometers. And, some of the concerns they're having, they're not really concerned with the CO2 coming up. You probably know all about this, it's geomechanical, and they're worried about the field blowing up sideways. So there's a lot of technology going on, but there's
Where they're injecting to, you're saying, is the
Yeah.
field, yeah,
in the aquifer.
in the aquifer. Yeah, I was wondering about that, because that's gotta.
Usually there's a really tight capstone, so the CO2 can't come up. But it depends on how it's bordered, like on the sides and underneath,
Yeah,
where's it gonna go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, and, I lost my train of thought there.
there's a lot of reservoir technology
Yeah, and,
in that, for sure.
they're worried about if a aquifer fills up with CO2 and they can't pump. They're thinking they're gonna start pulling salt water out and putting it in another zone or whatever, because the salt water's not harmful when it's
Right.
down that far. And,
And that-
we were sitting with 2 engineers from Stelco. And they were telling us that if the carbon tax goes up to $170 a ton, the steel mills will all shut down.
They won't be able to afford to make steel
Yeah,
unless they have carbon capture.
unless they have carbon capture. The one that really surprised me is concrete
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
is
highest emitter.
the highest emitter, but it's also the biggest commodity sold in the country. It's in everything. So if they can't do carbon capture, they don't know what they're gonna do with it.
Trudeau will have to rethink things.
Yeah, so what I took out of this was carbon capture, when it really starts to develop is gonna be an industry that is just as big or bigger than the oil and gas industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they pump 100% pure CO2, so like if that gas plant they're gonna build, the exhaust coming off of that gets refined and only the carbon is pumped down the hole. And it has to be perfectly dry carbon gas. Because if there's water with it, it's very corrosive. That's why they're using 1-inch pipe. So it's quite a process to do it. And what's interesting in the carbon capture system, there's not much infrastructure that like our county can get taxed on. Where the infrastructure will be is at the site that is producing the carbon. So like the gas or the power plant will have their own system for refining the carbon out. So it's very interesting, and we had a discussion with a company that does carbon credits. And that one is really hard to explain because it doesn't make a lot of sense.
That seems like a bit of a black magic kind of box,
The
for
guy
sure.
was telling us, you can be a company that burns methane. And you can't get any carbon credits by burning methane. Or yes, you can. If you burn the methane and turn it into CO2, you get carbon credits because methane's worse than CO2.
That's true.
Yeah. So the way it's set up, and only Alberta has carbon credits.
Hmm.
The rest of Canada does not. So like the steel mills in Ontario can't buy our carbon credits because they're not recognized there.
Interesting.
Alberta advantage.
Yeah.
There's great advantage here as far as trying to capture that CO2 that comes off of whether it's a power plant or
Well,
cement plants or whatever, steel mills, all that, capturing that CO2. We have reservoirs that CO2 can go into. That doesn't exist everywhere. We have that here.
Inland Cement in the west end of Edmonton are putting their own carbon capture system there.
Yes,
Well,
and they
it's-
will be tying into that hub to
Yeah.
put their CO2 into the ground.
Yeah. And
Carbon capture.
Heidelberg Group, which owns Inland Cement,
Yeah.
they're building a great big one in Belgium.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to mention, it's great to hear your feedback from this conference. And going forward, hopefully it's something that for next year, that we can get a few members, whether, it's a member from this board, but at least, a few representatives from, get the county going. And, like you said, I think that we have a real opportunity in this area. And I think that we really need to put some funding behind focusing in this development.
Go ahead, Bert.
So just two things quickly. So number one, yes, it's really too bad that everyone here didn't have the opportunity to attend that open house in June. They had about an 8-foot tall map of our local bedrock and vault showing where their carbon was going to go, and it is right into the Cambrian rock, about 4,000 meters down. And so when you look at, you were talking about the cap rock, and they actually had physical samples of the different types of cap rock there. And so what's interesting with the Carbon Hub here, and it goes back to support what you said, Shelley, is there's not just one level of cap rock, but there's a minimum of at least 3 really solid levels of cap rock. And then because it's going into an aquifer, it probably isn't going to end up coming out. It'll settle out as scale over time. So it was very, very exciting. And Mr. Chair, your comments reinforce what we've been saying, which is that if you don't have a carbon hub after 2030, you won't have capacity for heavy industry. It just, with the structure that's coming, it's just the way it is.
And something else that's starting up is companies are developing methods and reasons to use carbon. So some of these companies are asking to buy the carbon.
Yeah.
So they can utilize it in their process.
What are some of the products?
They didn't get into that.
The carbon fiber nanotubes tend to be one of the very first ones, but right now that's very niche thing. But as we move forward, carbon fiber nanotubes could replace some of the traditional materials in the construction industry.
Such as?
So what it is, it's a little kind of flexi tube, and they all interlink together. So replacing concrete, replacing wood, replacing all other kinds of business building materials for space exploration and that kind of thing, especially. Even for building pipelines and doing that, they're looking at carbon fiber.
Cool.
Carbon, I'm not sure in basically how this part would be produced, but carbon is definitely an ingredient in tire making process as well. So that's something that in the past has been a utilization.
I just have a progress question. Are we adjourning in 10 minutes when Alan needs to leave? Okay. And when do we need budget stuff in? We don't need it by the end of this meeting?
No, but that was kind of the second part of things, talking about conference attendance for next year. What we may want to consider is to just say, okay, we have X number of delegates we want to send, and then we maybe leave it to the committee to pick and choose which conferences, right? But we can say, we have 6 committee members that we are going to fund to attend conferences this year, or we have 4 conferences that we know that we want to send, that we want council to attend, or however we may want to do it. But those are things that we can consider and put into the budget, as well as any other future considerations. We're still waiting for, and we should probably know within the next couple of weeks what the direction from council will be in regards to, we're coming into year 4 of 5 of the economic recovery. So it'll be council direction to say where we're at on the budgeting process.
Alan?
So, to be clear, we're gonna have a meeting in October, and at that meeting, we'll finalize any budget questions?
What I would say there is we probably put anything onto our wish list that we want to do,
Right.
and then we do a series of those interior admin meetings and before we make the budget presentation to council.
Okay, so, once again, we're gonna have another ECDEB meeting in October, and this committee can put things on the wish list.
I think that makes a wonderful sense, yes.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else?
Can I move that the Economic Development Committee accepts the work plan updates and action items as information?
Perfect.
Thank you very much for your presentation about that was really interesting.
So 2 other follow-up motions. So one, do we need a motion to say that yes, we want me to attend the ministry dinner, or are we okay with things as they are?
Oh. So you want a second motion then?
Well, I'm just asking, does the committee feel we need one, or are we good?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think so.
So the second motion I need then is for our photo contest. We do need to appoint a judge from one of our 3 lovely and talented and incredibly highly skilled, highly trained committee members to be a judge for, it's about a 2-hour chunk of time that's needed to review and do the photos. They do it by a Teams meeting.
Go ahead.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes,
We do? So why don't we, that's not a motion to adjourn, right? It's a motion.
No.
So why don't we vote on that motion and then we can.
I'm sorry, I thought the committee had voted. I'd marked it down as passed.
No.
Sorry.
I asked if there was anybody who had questions and you just started speaking, so.
Whoops.
Call the question, all in favor? Okay, so who wants to make Bert's motion?
What's the date of it?
So we've extended the contest to September 30th, and then after it closes on the 30th, Nikita will reach out and he'll talk to, because I believe we've got 3 judges, and so he'll set up a time that will work for everybody, but it's usually about a 2-hour Teams meeting, he said.
Patricia?
Just curious why it was extended.
Just to make sure we got enough submissions in. We did have a few in, but we did want to extend it to make sure we gave people some extra time. What usually happens is we end up with most of the submissions in the last week. And we wanted to make sure that we had given everybody enough time.
So is it a nice way of saying not many people applied?
No, we've got a number of entries in each category. It was just, we wanted to, we had the time, and with the meeting not being scheduled until when it was, and us having to do the judge appointment, it just made sense to extend it an extra couple weeks.
Do we have a volunteer?
I don't really care either way. Is somebody keen on it?
I'm not a good candidate for it.
Up to you.
I'd rather not.
Then I'm fine. I'm fine doing it.
I could if you didn't want to.
No, I said I'm fine either way, and I stand by my word.
And just in regard to the photo contest, one of the things I wanted to mention going forward for this committee is at this time as it's coming to a close, I just want to mention again, I've mentioned it in the past at a meeting, that I would like it to not be part of what this committee looks at. And also, when we discussed it, I was not aware that it was going to involve sponsored ads on Facebook, that it was going to involve radio ads. And when I hear these radio ads and I see the money that's going into the sponsorship on Facebook and so on, I definitely think that as a community that money could have been spent more wisely.
Or it could have been allocated to a different committee. You know, it could go to community service or something like that. Okay, leave our budget the same, but just take this expense out.
I was looking at this today, and I kind of felt like it didn't, that, I don't know if the plow thing was in our committee, I think that was pre-me, but I don't know if it's in, maybe I'm out of, in line with our, like, pillars.
Yeah, strategic objectives.
Thank you.
So,
Can we table that discussion to our budget discussion? And
Can we put the,
Absolutely.
is the tabled part put into the minutes?
good question. So you want a motion to take the photo contest out, recommendation to take it out?
Or discuss it?
Absolutely, I'll make that motion. I'm prepared to make that motion that we take the photo contest out of the realm of economic development.
And send it to council.
And send it to council. Sure.
Recommend to council
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
sure. That's what you said.
Hopefully as the word master bird's got it handled. Sorry for the confusing statement.
that's okay. So we want a motion to remove the photo contest from the ECDev budget.
Recommend to council to remove.
Actually, not from the ECDev budget, from the economic development department, period. So it's not just the budget concern that I have, it's everything to do with the photo contest as
Well,
a resource of time.
Yeah, so communications does most of it. I consult and we work on a little bit of it together. We did have, so in previous years, we've had, I think it was upwards of 40 to 50 qualified applications. This year, we were sitting at about 35. We do always have discussions at the beginning of every year about discussing the categories and the wheel out and all of that. And then I do sign off on the budget. We have a $2,500 budget within the ECDev budget for the photo contest. So.
We want to keep the budget. We just,
Well,
So-
keep the money.
So the motion then would be that we recommend to council to remove the photo contest from the ECDev budget.
not budget.
Just before,
From economic development.
I've brought this up before on the parades and all that stuff, because to me, that doesn't belong in economic development. And I was told, yeah, we can take it out, but the money budgeted for that is gonna go to the department that's gonna look after it.
Which is fair.
Then so be it.
That's
yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
I don't have an issue with that.
But like community engagement and stuff like that should include parades and like,
go ahead, Patricia.
Just as a comment as well, I think that it would be important information for council to have to see what was the cost of the photo contest. Because the advertising and so on, if that advertising committed communications budget, then it is an expense that was attributed to that photo contest. So it's just something that I would think council might be interested in.
All of the advertising and everything comes from the 2,500 that's allocated through our budget. Yeah, that's what that 2,500 is for, is to do and to run the photo contest.
So
that
really what we're
includes
talking
supplying-
about is his time, right? We don't think that that's an economic development thing, so we don't want
Correct.
you spending any time on it. And so she's not talking about the money so much, it's any oversight that you provide or anything like that. And that's really a council admin discussion, right? You know, that's, we have to let administration build their administrative structure how they think it is best. And they know more about that than we do, right? Like, I agree with you. It's not part, same thing as Bruce, the parades aren't part, but if he's really not spending any time on it, then it doesn't matter.
And what it is as well is just in speaking to residents, residents are hearing this advertised on the radio, and they're also hearing that we have no money for, upgrades, and we have no money for this, that, and the other thing, but we have money for advertising photo contests. So I just think it's that.
How many people did you talk to that said that?
There's actually a number of people that I've heard this from, so.
Well, and every
that's
time
why I
somebody
was-
says something like that to me,
Yeah.
I just talk about the nominal portion. 2,500 over a $30 million budget is not very much. It spreads goodwill. It gives people that like to take pictures an opportunity to showcase our county. So I defend that every day of the week.
Yep, which is a fair point.
Okay, Bert?
One of the key reasons for doing the photo contest is it means that we don't have to subscribe to some of those bigger picture subscription services, which can be in the thousands of dollars per year. So this was actually, when we looked at implementing this, it was actually a cost savings for us to look at having our own local photo supply that's supplied of Woodlands, rather than having to buy and use stock images. And so you haven't seen the final draft yet, but in the agricultural guide that we're doing, we are using dozens of the photos that we've accrued from the last couple of photo contests. So
So free pictures from the county instead of buying pictures,
Yeah.
Exactly.
essentially.
And absolutely.
So
I
it is a cost
understood-
savings measure.
Absolutely. I understood that definitely in the past for other ones. It's just in things like if we had had this amount of effort and advertising go into our community business directory, I just think we would have received more bang for our buck on it. So that's where it is. But I'll leave it at that.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Do you want to repeat that motion, Bert?
So what I have is to recommend to council to remove the photo contest from the ECDev work plan.
Perfect.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? None? I'll call the question. All in favor? All passed?
Alan.
So we did
Keeping
9-2,
you
right?
in.
We did items?
We did 7, so now we're on 8.
So we are at Blue Sky?
So, yes, so under Blue Sky,
Sorry, I do have
Yeah, no problem.
It's done.
that's okay, so under Blue Sky, the one thing was just, there is a geothermal greenhouse in Hinton that has gotten the okay. And I thought that was kind of interesting because it is.
Hi, Alan.
See you, Alan? Because it is both uses the geothermal facilities, which we've talked about before and which we realize is something that's quite possible. And then, of course, it is a large commercial greenhouse. So I thought that might be an item that would be of interest.
If you need
Yeah,
me
I
to go
looked-
tour it, I don't mind riding that bullet.
Okay? Well,
I thought it was very interesting. I read through the link that you sent. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I did.
possible to.
I like stuff like that.
I'll put that on the list.
We can carpool.
Yeah, I'm in, for sure.
Okay?
Okay,
I move to accept that the Economic Development Committee accepts items presented as informations. I don't know if there's an S.
anything on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? Information items.
And so under info items, we have the normal Government of Alberta reports, and the two items of note there are, number one, most economists are now telling us that we have had a complete recovery from COVID. So our economic activity and GDP is now at the same level we were at pre-COVID. And this week, they adjusted the potential growth for Alberta from 2.4 down to about 2% for the economic growth expected for the province. So we're basically back on the same kind of track that we were starting in 2019. So that's good news, that we're basically back to where we're at. The other really interesting thing is Alberta has experienced its highest level of inward migration from all sources, so that means international immigrants as well as migration from elsewhere in Canada. Since 1981, we had over 200,000 people that have relocated to Alberta in the last 12 months. And so that is absolutely fascinating. That is off the charts growth of folks coming here. So whether it's because of jobs, housing prices, not wanting to be in other jurisdictions, who knows? But the reality is they're coming. We still have a labor shortage, and we still have a local labor shortage in regards to skilled workers and some of those things. But I mean, some of that is demographic. So I mean, based on the age cohorts and that sort of thing, with the boomers aging out and all of that kind of stuff. But anyway, those were some of the highlights. The carbon capture link is there of the conference that Bruce and Peter attended. And then I did include the reports from Invest Alberta and from Edmonton Global. Those were the ones that I could find to include. I will, as instructed, take a look and see if I can find any other local ECDEV reports. And we'll certainly get the White Court minutes and that sort of thing going. But yeah, that was it for the information items.
Just in regards to information, I had a quick question. I'm wondering if you've come across anything specifically on housing rates, and because I was curious, and it might be something for a future meeting, but I'm wondering specifically within the county, I know there's definitely a labor shortage all over, and of course all across Canada there's a major housing shortage. But specifically, how does that apply to Woodlands County? And if we're not experiencing the housing shortage like it is certainly in some of the other areas, I think that that's good marketing information to be able to have to present to our businesses when they're trying to attract new people to the area.
We haven't had an update from the Northwest Realtor Group in quite some time. So that's something that I do want to kind of reach out and follow up on. But based on the MLS listings, and we do have those embedded on our county website, that's one of those tools from Local Intel. It is interesting to see the number of homes here and the number of homes that are selling. It seems like we're in kind of a 30 to 60 day cycle for a lot of house listings from what I've observed, which is pretty fast. I mean, in the past, we've seen houses be on the market for as much as 5 to 6 months, right? So I think that things are cycling a little bit faster, which is amazing when you consider the higher interest rates and where things are at. So, yeah.
Talking about trying to attract professionals to our community. In my H Park committee, Rhonda was showing us these little cards that the town has. I brought them because I thought they were really kind of cool. And there's one for summer and one for winter. And they say when they go to different events, they'll have cards with their QR code specifically designed for each event. So if they go to, I don't know, an activities one, then they'll have the link to play in White Court, and then it'll come up all their things. If they go to a business one, then they'll have one specifically linked to their business account. So you click on the QR code, their business account comes up with their business directory and all that stuff. And so Rhonda said these are crazy, crazy cheap to make and print, and they look really polished. I thought. So if we had something like that for us to bring when we go to different places, when we go talk to professionals, and so we say, hey, this is White Court. This is how you get in these are our, this is how you find a realtor. This is how you find who supplies gas and power in your community. This is our stuff like that. So like it's easy for people to come and relocate to us. I don't know.
We have it all embedded on our website now.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, to do a card like that, we could certainly take a look.
It's just a little different saying, hey, go to our website, and they're like, sure.
But
But if
I
it's
think
like-
if you had a card like that and it was a quick link right to the website, because once you get to the
To that
website,
part of the website.
not even just the general website, then you have one card that actually covers anything you go to. Because once you get to our website, it's really not that hard to maneuver through it.
I think it's hard
Depending
to
what
find to email people, because I always look for people's email addresses on there, and I can never find them.
That's because I think we just have the info email.
It's all
is the only
general.
one that's there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Which
not
reminds
very-
me, I still have business cards that you
give
gave
back.
me for Slight Link. I could probably return.
But part of our action item on our thing was an update on the website.
Yeah.
So if our first link is sending people to a website that we have identified is faulty, I
Well,
don't know if that's the best.
So we are in the process of doing, because our revised county website went up 3 years ago, basically, and we've done some updates, but the annual updates are due. So that's something that's on my plate right now, is to work with communications to get some of our other websites done. Now, our format isn't gonna change overall, but some of the written data will be updated. And those live tools that are embedded by local intel, like, that's all live data. That's the best data that we can purchase through them to have. So on the information on like the housing rates and housing listings and all of that, that's all there. You just have to click on the button and everything pops up, and it's all Woodlands based, right?
Good.
I'll make a motion that we accept the information items as presented.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
I have another question. Before we adjourn, because I have lots of questions. I write down all these notes, and then I feel like we never get to discuss things. Do we have, I think I follow White Woodlands County on Facebook. Do we often put out highlights about the county?
So communications does our county Facebook page. And they always have the notices, which are the updates of post every council meeting, right? So those are there, and then any of the events and all that, those are all put through Facebook as well. I know we post probably, I think they shoot for between 4 to 6 Facebook posts per day. For
Per
all-
day?
Day?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that would
So
really muddy
that's-
down the information.
Yeah, so that's that's kind of the max that they wanna get to, right? And that's why even when we put things into communication, sometimes it doesn't make it onto the list. But, the Career Expo, we had on, I think, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, was on the county Facebook page. We had done a post about it, and then the BSN meeting. So the one item that I'm quite excited about with BSN, because we were able to work with Leanne Hackman-Carty, to get Leanne here, is on that fostering disaster resilience. So we have that event coming up on October 4th, and Leanne's she'll present by Zoom, but we're doing that as a regional BSN event, just because we did have such disruption and everything with fires and floods this spring. That's a great way for people to connect and to understand what they can do with their business to be disaster ready and to be a bit more disaster resilient. So, and I know that was just yesterday, I believe.
I'm more so pointing to like, is there something that our committee would like communications to like, I don't want them saying, hey, I've had a meeting, nobody cares about that. What they care about is, we want you to sign up for our business directory, this is why. Hey, did you know you don't need a permit to have a business in Woodlands County? Hey, you know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. Maybe, hey, have you checked out Community Futures?
Yeah.
Who's our representation on Community Futures board?
Dave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, those, like, not, hey, this was our, check out our minutes.
Yeah, no.
But, like, you don't need a business card.
We have talked about that in the past, but that's the problem is we don't have the room or the space, right? So what happens is on the events, we can often advertise events, but because we are doing a number of posts per day on that part of it, the communications focus often goes to other items and to other things. And when we have asked to promote things like International Economic Development Week, Small Business Week, some of those kinds of things, they kind of get triaged out of the mix.
It's not even that, it's like just points of information. That's really sad that that this committee is not getting any of that space then.
Well, it just, you have to consider, you know, our communications team has to promote everything for the county overall. And the focus always is on infrastructure, roads, and safety first.
Oh, for
Those are
sure.
always the things that come first.
That's why, I'm sure to combat that, Whitecourt created their own Whitecourt Economic Development Facebook pages.
Probably.
So, because their social media, their ECDEV social media is separate than the town social media.
Because like with our H Park, Whitecourt is putting out like, hey, meet our new doc to town.
Mhm.
Hey, this is our committee. And you know, those are things that like people can, they're not gonna, I don't know. I think those are really meaningful.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, I think our committee deserves some spotlight too.
I think too is like, where do we start, where do we stop? And how much time is it gonna take? Cause like, we are really understaffed
Right.
and we don't have the funds to hire a lot of people.
Well, Facebook page takes mere minutes.
Yeah, but minutes, but you're busy
You-
doing something else.
Yeah, because you have to understand, like, we don't even have a full-time communications person at this point. Nikita does communications and all of our IT. So, I mean, that's just it, is we're dealing with someone who's already putting in 40-plus hours per week and doing training. That's what we have as an internal resource.
What is our main route of communication with our small businesses in town, in county?
In regards to what?
Anything. Any communication with our small businesses, which is the way that you speak to them?
Sometimes it's directly, sometimes it's at events, sometimes it's phone calls.
And which is the main route that small businesses are communicating with each other? It's on social media. So if our ACDEV committee is not on any social media, if we're not being represented on any social media, then our voice is not being heard, and neither is their voice being heard by us.
There's a lot of value to that statement.
That wasn't even on my list. So I don't know where the solution lies, but and it's Gen Z's. Pretty much all of their communication is on those applications, and it's not in person, and it is not via telephone.
Which is true. It's a good thing to bring up when we're talking about asking council for a position. When they bring up, 20% of your time being spent on growth, it's not just that, it's that these are something an admin would be really good for. Going forward, it could really help foster the communication with the business community on things like social media.
Well, and that's the problem right now is, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter, but I don't post, I follow, right? And that's just with my own personal. In regards to the county, I mean, I'll take you back through the conversation over the last 5 years. 5 years ago, we didn't have a Facebook presence, right? Like we had no social media presence for the county at all. Now, in the last 5 years, and since we've had communications department and that kind of thing get started, we have the Bark Connect, so that's the Barhead Area Regional Crime Coalition, but we use it mostly for where Barhead has taken to using it for sending out community updates and updates around their pool and their facilities. We only use it with the RCMP for emergencies, right? But on the Facebook page, there are multiple posts a day on our county Facebook page, but that is our only social media outlet that council has okayed us to use.
So I understand what you're saying, and I'm not part of that generation, and I hate Facebook. Like, I don't go on there at all. I had to actually look up to see what Woodlands County actually posts. But I get that that's how my kids would look at stuff.
It's like 100% of the route that
For
they get
sure.
information.
But what would the county, what would ECDEV post
But that's
and
what
share?
I'm saying. Like, share a new business that's added to our directory. Hey, like I said, the fact that you don't need a permit, I had no clue until I joined this committee. How did I not, how's that not
Well, no,
advertised?
If you look at White
You
Courts,
need a
it's a good
permit.
example of what you can post.
So you need a permit.
See, I'd have to go look that up because I would not know.
I'm the same, I don't have Facebook,
Right.
nothing.
But that's it.
where Kristen's ideas
Yeah.
and
But I get what you're
representing that generation
Yeah.
are so important on this
Yeah.
committee. Because we speak to our own generation.
Yeah, I'm too old
And
for
we
that,
need
yeah.
people like you to speak
Right.
as well.
But
and
like I
bring
said,
this to the
the
people
main
that we're
root
not
of their
speaking.
communication, a
Yes.
business to their people is social media. And so if we're not even a part of that, yeah.
From the ECDev part of, for the county, no, we're not. And I know we have looked at, our meeting is still on, but I mean, pardon me, for transparency purposes, we're on YouTube. So that's the other part of it that council has agreed to. In regards to a broader communications platform and all of that's something that we can certainly put it forward for discussion, but it would have to end up coming through communications. Because at this point, they would be the ones that would have to structure that program, manage it, figure out what to do. We don't have that authority or have that within our bailiwick to adjust and do how the county communicates, right?
That sounds great. Can we put that as a motion?
It's something that what I would do is let's hold on to it for the next meeting, because the idea as well is we still have a number of our county residents that are not even on the internet, right? And but when council does their discussion, because I understand, and you are at this end of the spectrum.
I'm in the
And I
middle, but I
completely
see
agree
this
with
side.
you. Well, and I completely agree with you. It would be great if we could be doing more on social media and doing more. I mean, I've always been a fan of shameless self-promotion. I mean, when we did the Red Paperclip project and I was in the town of Kipling, that was the entire reason for doing the project, was to generate some publicity and to do shameless self-promotion. And we can certainly do that. It's just, we need the approval and direction from council that yes, that's what they want us to do. And then we need to have the right tools put in place for that to happen.
Like, I think the fact that you say our main route of communication with our small businesses is in person at events or via telephone is extremely
Archaic.
outdated and missing, and it's gonna be missing a huge chunk of people. So then that's why I don't mind tabling it, but I do want to put it, the action would be to discuss at the next committee meeting that our
Establishing.
a communication base with small businesses.
I think that's a great item to bring forward. I fully support that.
Could we ask
And-
communications to come?
We can, I don't know if they'll have time to, but we can certainly ask, yeah.
You can always ask, they can always say no.
And I just wanted to mention, and with all due respect, when it comes to communication, the people in our county that are currently not online, when it comes to specifically the operations of economic development, the majority of people that are not online there are seniors that are not our business creators at this point in time.
Well,
Agreed.
and this is where, like, one of the biggest things that's come from the involvement with SiteLink and AEDL and all of that is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where all of the investment attraction discussion happens, right? And I mean, I spend much more time on LinkedIn on a daily basis than I do on any of the other platforms, because LinkedIn is where all of the professional information is.
That's
2 minutes left.
That's like big businesses, but
Yeah.
small businesses are the heart and the soul of municipalities. So yes, that is the big fish thing, but it's also missing the sea of small fish.
I think LinkedIn is where you find outsiders that are looking for information about Woodlands. You're talking about people that are inside Woodlands that are starting small businesses or intermediate businesses.
And people in the community who want to find them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's two ends of the spectrum there. There's the big business, there's the little,
So
but
can we
it's
vote on
all
this?
economic development for sure, and quality of life improvement type stuff.
Okay,
Yeah. You vote on the motion on the table?
are you making a motion?
I did. Did you get it all, or did I?
No, what I have is just for future discussion, we can talk about how we do economic development on social media, how we can communicate with our business, so we have both internal Woodlands businesses and then our external. That's, That's what I have down so far. But did you have a specific motion that
Yep.
you want to do?
I thought I had said that I made a motion to discuss. No, I did.
Yeah,
Yep.
she said a motion to discuss. You worded it well, but I don't remember the exact
To
wording.
discuss communication of active committee at the next meeting.
Okay.
And if communications can attend. Please.
Okay. Anything on the motion? Call the question, all in favor? Okay, we get an adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
I've got a list left to talk. That was good.
If you have a list and you call Bert and say, I have these questions, and you'll put it on the agenda,
Okay,
did.
great.
Thank you.
because you just can't come out with a whole bunch of questions you want.
Hold on, just give me a
Yep,
second.
that's why-
An agenda.
I'll stop for a
That's
few
why I
minutes,
didn't,
Bridget.
yeah. But should I first email it to you and Bert, because you're the chair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then maybe you can even address some of those things prior to the
Yeah.
meeting.
You know, and
Cool.
we might take some and we might not take some. Depends on our agenda.
Oh, right.